The Midday Show with me, BellaNaija. This is Lagos Talk 91.3. And on Directions today, that show where we get to point you towards the right direction, I have a gorgeous guest in the studio with me. Her name is Mary Edoro. She is a seasoned digital media strategist and journalist with a penchant for fashion, beauty, and lifestyle.
Ooh, flatter me.
And she's developed her skill by working for over 8 years in the digital media industry. And today we're going to be talking about fashion sustainability. So welcome, Mary.
Thank you for the kind words, and you look so beautiful. You look really pretty today.
You look colorful, and I love
Thank
your
you. I tried today. I knew I was coming to see a pretty girl,
that.
so I decided
to. All right, just getting into it. I just want to know what your journey has been like so far. You know, being a fashion journalist and being in media for such a long time. So how has that been, and how did you get to that point where you realized this is what I want to do?
Okay, so to be honest, the journey has been funny.
Okay.
I started out in digital media. My first job was actually community management for a PR company.
Interesting.
So it was just this random job that I wanted to do and just see how it was and how it go. And eventually I developed like a passion for digital media and the digital space. You know, working in digital world is such an interesting, I would say, like discovery, especially back then, like 10-15 years ago, when everybody was still used to the bank jobs and the oil jobs and all of that. And so I really wanted to explore it. So while in the process of exploring and self-discovery, I would say, I started a blog. And from there, then it was just about Lagos, really. The blog was called Lagos City Chic, really. Yeah, I used to go about in Lagos then. I didn't even have money, but I'll go about in Lagos. I would go to restaurants, new places that open up, and I'll take pictures of the places, enjoy, go to art galleries and all. And from there, people used to always ask me, oh, you wore this fine. Where is this from? Where is that from? I'm like, oh, a Nigerian made it, and this Nigerian made it, and that designer made it. And they're like, okay. We wanted to, and people wanted to know more about that. And eventually I became a fashion blogger in the sense of it. And I think that whole journey just made me want to discover much more about fashion. So I went in on, and I would say I kind of have a background in fashion because everybody in my house is a bit stylish. My sister used to have, my sister used to have tons of Cosmo magazines and Vogue magazines at home. And my mom is she's the one, she loves red lipstick. So I think my first encounter with red lipsticks were from my mom. So of course that had always been there, and I started blogging and I read much more about fashion, and eventually I found love at BellaNaija. I started it's a really from the bottom to the top story. I started as an intern and I grew to junior editor, like the whole work started from the bottom, and then I think eventually now grew to where I am now, which is head of content. So it has been an interesting ride. It has been fun. I've learned so much on the journey, even so much more about myself, and I think my career trajectory has also sort of changed. So initially I wanted to just be a fashion editor. I wanted to be Anna Wintour of Africa or something. But I think now it's sort of evolving to something else where I'm saying, okay, I want to be a digital media strategist and I want to develop much more, because now we're not just talking of fashion and wearing clothes and talking about runway shows. We're talking of doing innovative things with fashion, and how far can fashion really go in developing our economy.
I love that you said that. Now, before talking about where that evolution took place, I just want to go back to you starting this journey, taking pictures, going around, having fun. Did you actually have an end in mind? Was there a target? Was there a goal? Or was this just you living life, just enjoying yourself and taking pictures?
I will be honest with you, it was just me living my life. I think one thing that inspired me to do it was my sister used to live in Abuja back then, and when she comes into Lagos, she'll ask me, oh, where should we go? Where should we do this? Where should we do that? And I'll tell her, she's like, oh, how come you know all these new restaurants? I remember when RSVP just opened and she's like, how did you figure out this place? I'm like, oh, I don't even know myself, but I just get to know that I know this information. So I don't think I started very intentionally. No, it just kind of grew on me, and I'm like, you know what, let's do something about it. And Lagos City Chic is such an interesting platform that I hope I'm able to explore much more. But for now, we've put it on hold for now, and I'm focusing more on my job in fashion and media.
Yeah. So now, talking about you wanting to move into digital media strategy, where did that shift come from? You know, because you're definitely fashionable. Fashion is something that you love. So where did that twist come from? Was that an encounter? Was there some sort of epiphany? Was there some sort of information that you saw and you were like, you know what, this is probably what I want to do?
Well, I am very grateful every day for my job at BellaNaija, and I'm very grateful for my CEO, Uche Pedro. I think she kind of foresaw the future of digital media, and she always never wanted to box me into the role of editor, because editor sounds very magazine, and you understand how editor sounds. And so she always used to challenge me and say, okay, think outside of the box. And I think I started to open my mind to other opportunities and other things that could come out from what I'm currently doing, because what I'm doing right now doesn't just revolve around writing stories about fashion. It goes much more into project management, event management, planning, reaching out for sponsorship, partnerships. So it's much more broad than just fashion editing and being an editor.
Wow, that's absolutely phenomenal. Now, just taking a look at the digital summit that is up and coming, could you give us a little bit of information about that, what this is all about?
Of course. Last year in 2020, when the pandemic hit, I think like most people, I was at a stage where I wanted to find out, like, I feel like I was a bit unsure of the future. I think like everybody else, we're like, what next after this pandemic? Is there even something after the pandemic? And so then I had another team member, Isoken, who we decided to do something, a virtual event, like a virtual conference, where we bring together people to discuss something around fashion. And while I was thinking about it, I think that the idea came for mapping Africa's fashion future. So that was the topic for last year's event, was mapping Africa's fashion future. And so we had people from the PR space, we had people from like core fashion, education, and we had a whole lot of people come together to talk about what they thought fashion would project, basically the future of fashion. And it was an interesting event. It was a 1 day event that I would say we just did it. We just did it. We're like, okay, we're just going to do it. And the feedback was amazing. And so we came back for a second edition this year. Now, this year's edition was phenomenal. We had the likes of Omoyemi Akerele, who is the convener of Lagos Fashion Week. We had Maureen Oluwole, who is someone who has worked at Facebook for over 15 years. We had so many people, so it was a groundbreaking event. What we did was to leverage technology and media for this event. It wasn't an unintentional thing. We had strategically chosen the topics for discussion in order to break down the fashion industry. So we discussed things like manufacturing, like sustainability in fashion, and basically how to future-proof creatives to make them hone their creativity in a much more structured way. So that was the general idea of the summit. So this year's own was much better than last year in terms of attendance, in terms of the analytics, and it was much more intentional, I dare say. And so hopefully we'll come back for a next edition next year, and it's going to be much bigger and on a bigger platform, maybe even physical.
Hopefully, hopefully, because the world needs that right now. Now, just talking about fashion sustainability, what is sustainability in fashion?
This is one topic I'm always very excited to talk about. Okay, so just for a quick talk, sustainability in fashion refers to like all-round consciousness in production, in design, in manufacturing of fashion in such a way that is not harmful to the environment. Now, the truth is, fashion, you won't believe, but fashion releases as much harmful toxic products as Britain, Germany, and I think France put together.
Wow.
So just the fashion industry. So the fashion industry is getting out of hand, and I think the topic of sustainability is something that has been going on and on and on recently. But what people don't know is that actually on the African continent, we have actually been very sustainable because we're more into slow fashion in terms of production. So we do slow fashion. If you notice, a lot of our older designers, they didn't used to do ready to wear. They used to do bespoke.
Exactly.
So when you order, they make the outfits. So unlike our counterparts in the international space, they overproduce. It ends up in landfills. It ends up being destroyed. It ends up as carbon in the environment. And so this topic is something that has been very, very dear to me. In 2020, when I was returning home for the lockdown, I had so many clothes for no reason at all. I had so many clothes for no reason. And eventually, I think about half of them I gave away, and the other half I had to throw away because there was nobody to give them to. And obviously, maybe they were not my size, or they were not made properly. And this is from purchasing fast fashion. So fast fashion are things that are produced faster, just, you know, I don't want to name any brands, but just things that are produced as fast as possible and with the lowest quality, and sometimes also child labor. So that's a different conversation. Wow. So sustainability is something that I'm very passionate about right now, and we actually have a campaign ongoing with BellaNaija Style called the Declutter and Donate campaign. So what we're doing through that is to raise awareness about brands in Nigeria, in Africa, that are actually doing great work in terms of sustainability, and also to raise awareness on the harmful things we may be doing and we don't even know. Things like not repeating clothes more than one time. A lot of people do it. And I remember when I was in secondary school, people would say, that guy doesn't repeat his clothes. Just and I was like, yeah. So, but that's very toxic because why won't you repeat your clothes? So these type of conversations are the things that we want to drive. And people who are doing great work with recycling, with upcycling, these are the conversations we're having with that campaign.
That's actually interesting, and something that I'm now interested in, because we also know that taking a look at fashion in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, it's fast rising to become the fashion hub of Africa, with the rise of different very outstanding designers. Now, with this conversation being had, how do you intend on sharing this information to especially the low-income parts of Nigeria? Because we know that if we go to these different parts of Lagos State, for instance, there are several fashion designers, tailors, fashion, like every corner, that may not even understand the language you're speaking, so to speak. So how do you intend on passing this message across to them? Because if we're talking sustainability, it is a conversation and it is a movement that we need to carry everyone along.
Yes, very correct. I think this is where we come in as BellaNaija Style as a platform, because we are leveraging our platform and our mega audience, which includes the high, the low, the enlightened, we have that broad audience, and we are telling these stories of people who are using yarn to make handbags, beads to make bags. People are using tires to make cushions, people who are doing interesting things. And now, along the timeline of our Declutter Donates campaign, we're also positioning to have some sort of digital workshop for lower income tailors and people in that fashion space, just so we can give them a sort of crash course on sustainability, on what they can do to make their business much more structured, how they can leverage digital media, social media to put out their work more, because we all know the average tailor might not even know how to use Instagram to sell, or know how, but she might be doing great work. So these are the things that we're trying to push through the campaign. And of course, at the end of the campaign, we aim to have a declutter drive where people can bring in clothes. So if you're someone like me who has a lot of clothes,
my mom is listening to this. She probably reminds me every day declutter and donate.
Exactly. Who has a lot of clothes that you want to give away? We're going to partner with a brand, with with an orphanage or something like that, to give them clothes, to give them things that they would need. Because it's interesting, if you go around Lagos, you see a lot of landfills with trash, with things that have been thrown away. But you also see so many naked children if you go to some certain parts. So why are we not giving these things to them? Why are we trashing them? Why are we not being much more considerate? So I think this is all encompassing in our Declutter and Donate campaign.
So do you intend to include the government in this journey? And I ask this because, especially when it comes to waste, and we've seen what's been happening in Lagos in particular, and for us to ensure that this is also a very successful project and movement, do you think that the government needs to be involved, or do you think this is just we the citizens coming together even without any help from the government?
To be honest, I feel like we have to play our part first of all as citizens, because I think a lot of times people always blame government this, government that, without actually trying to effect change themselves. So this is something we are happy to take on privately. But of course, if we do get government support, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So at this time, we're just pushing it out through our own passions, through our own platforms, to push this out and do the best we can do. But of course, like you've said, waste is something that also affects, the state as a whole, the country as a whole. So of course, if a government organization is willing to come on board, it's perfect and beautiful. Yes.
Fabulous, Mary. It's been a beautiful time having conversation with you. I definitely want you to come back.
Yes.
Particularly because aside from this interest that you've piqued in me about sustainability in fashion, I love your story. And that's something that I want us to highlight, because you made very clear that you grew. Right?
Yes.
You grew.
Yes.
People keep forgetting that there's something called
Exactly.
a growth process. Like, you don't just intend today and tomorrow you're a superstar and everyone knows you. I mean, it would be nice if that happens. But
it doesn't.
It
really doesn't
always
happen
like that. And I need this story to be pushed out. Let people understand that there's still something called a process. Yes, social media is there. Yes, people have these different success stories that are so fascinating. Yes, you wish it's you, but more often than not, what really happens is people go through a process.
Very true.
Don't forget that.
Very, very
so I'd definitely love for you to come back for that one.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Now, for others who would like to be a part of the Declutter Donate campaign,
yes.
what can they do?
So definitely all our activities are on our website, www.BellaNaijaStyle.com, and at BellaNaija Style on Instagram. You can also check us out on www.BellaNaija.com, which is our parent umbrella. Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. It's 2 minutes past 1, and that's all I have for you on Directions.